Good morning, everybody. This is Burke Lyle. We are recording on a Saturday morning. I apologize for the sun glare recording on me. That is just part of the shadow right now at this hour in the morning. So it is Saturday, February 29th. It is leap year this year as we are recording. So as it is every 4 years, it is leap year. You know, it's funny. I started this show almost 4 years ago. I don't remember the exact date and time. I think it might have been March 6th, that first episode I did. It may have been recorded, and we have kind of evolved over time with this show since it's been about 4 years old. You know, I started out just recording with my iPhone. It was just a podcast. I had zero listeners. I only sent my podcast to my friends and family. That was it. And then after that, I then got a microphone. Christmas 2016, so I recorded there. I used Podomatic for a long time. It was a free subscription. I didn't get much of an audience there on Podomatic, and I still sent it out. And then I started a YouTube channel previously where it wasn't even video. I tried to do audio to video, but that didn't work out as well. I discontinued it for I think a couple of years, at least over a year, and then I just did podcasts, and here I am. I've been on YouTube for almost 6 months now. You know, this channel has grown and evolved over time. We hope this channel keeps growing since I think YouTube's the way to go. And yes, this is a podcast. I do have recordings and I store these into audio. But here we are just recording again. So anyways, since we're just thinking about nearly 4 years of recording, so I just wanted to mention that. So as of right now, we're one day away from March, and a lot of news going on around Washington D.C. I think the biggest story in Washington D.C. sports, and this is also a big NFL national story, is who the Redskins are going to take with the second pick, and not only that, Chase Young. What is going on with Chase Young, and then. So this is the first episode right now. So Chase Young is the highest rated prospect at 7.40. That is his draft grade or prospect grade. So when you look at that, that's about as high as you can be. I think 8 is perfect, like the best any prospect's ever been ever. They say an all-pro player, perennial all-pro player, pretty much every year. So if he can be an all-pro, say by year 2. Or by year 3, and then just keeps up over and over again, gets a contract extension. Which who knows what the bar will be set when Chase Young's contract's up, say 5 years from now, and then just keeps making all pros throughout his career. Like maybe he's dominant for close to a decade, and a really valuable player and then a good player for close to 15 years. I mean, who knows if that's actually the case or not, but that's his highest rate. He's the highest rated prospect. Other prospects I know were quite high. I can't remember them exactly. It was 2, 3, 4, but we just know Chase Young was number 1. And usually every year there's always players you think are going to be all pros. And then there's players who you might think will make it in the lowest grades, basically training camp, and then you're done, one and done. Some of those players could make all pro teams and be Pro Bowlers. So yes, those projections are not always accurate. That's just what people think at the time. They can really vary. Like there's always these certain prospects. I'm sure Ryan Leaf had a higher grade, and I'm sure Peyton Manning had a similar grade. One is one of the very best quarterbacks to ever play, certainly numbers wise, and also just pure quarterback play in terms of smartness. While Ryan Leaf's one of the worst quarterbacks to ever play. Right? Think about what Tom Brady's draft grade might have been in 2000, 20 years ago. Think about what he become. All right, so that was probably inaccurate from that point of view. So I read an article by The Athletic. I read a lot of articles from Ben Standing, the beat writer for the Washington Redskins on The Athletic, and basically he skipped the combine. And here, and this is what Young said in a recent press conference. So here are, quote, "Me and my team, we decided that because that the first day of camp when I step on the field, I want to be the best player I can be," Young said Thursday morning. "I don't want to waste time trying to be a combine athlete," Young said. "When I step on the field, I need to know that I put my best foot forward to be the best player I can be. So, what this is he's saying, you know what? I don't need to go to the combine. I've done plenty already to show that, right? So again, he just wants to be ready for training camp or mini camp, whenever it is, which OTAs will really be starting in the next couple months. So yes, he doesn't want to waste time at the combine. That is fine. I don't think Joe Burrow is at the combine either. So there's a lot of players that are kind of skipping the combine. I mean, is he going to get a bad 40 time? Probably not. Is he going to mess up at the combine? Probably not. But again, doesn't think he has anything left to prove. And again, certain players may benefit at the combine. We saw DK Metcalf, his performances at the combine, or Henry Ruggs from Alabama the other day had the best 40 time and one of the very best 42-inch verticals as well. So that's a great combine performance, right? Or something like that, or we can tell based on the combine that Jake Fromm is not very athletic. That's the results we got, or how poorly Tom Brady did the combine. So there's just certain players, or maybe John Ross, who ran a 4.240, not much more than that, one of the fastest time ever, and how maybe benefited in terms of draft stock, but his career hasn't been that way. So again, and you never know at the combine. I guess during his exercises you could get hurt. I don't think that's the case. He didn't mention that, but still, really didn't think he had much to prove. And then this when he's asked this, Chase Young said, and definitely confident in himself. I definitely think I'm the best player in the draft. Young said I showed it on my tape. You can go to every game. I think I showed it. You definitely think I put my best foot forward this year. Okay, so what he's talking about is, yes, he thinks he's the best player in the draft. He thinks he's better than Tua or Joe Burrow, one or the other. And also, not only that, he's saying, look at the tape. So again, eye test. So obviously Chase Young passes the eye test. I kind of watched a close, 10-minute highlight video of Ohio State. I think it showed all of his sacks, right? And all the plays he made there at Ohio State. I think was suspended for 2 games and then did not record a sack. I think against Michigan, Big Ten, and also against Clemson. So again, dominating spurts. I did happen to watch the game against Wisconsin when he had 4 sacks. And how often do I watch Ohio State football? Not very often. I might tune in and see bits and pieces of a lot of their games, or part of their games. I don't know. I watch the playoffs. I'm not an Ohio State fan. The team I like is obviously Georgia. So, but again, eye test, right? Since again, you see certain things on film, like maybe you have this raw prospect, like Josh Allen on film. He probably didn't look very good a lot of the time. And even today, does not look very good based on eye test, right? There's just these certain players. Lamar Jackson might look very good on eye test, right? But then people will definitely critical of him at times. So again, is Chase Young going number 1? Probably not. I don't think he is going number 1 to the Bengals, since again, I think Joe Burrow would make more sense for them. Quarterback is a definite need for the Bengals right now. So again, you see all the mock drafts. Where is he going? And again, this could be something very interesting, as we'll get to in a second on another athletic article. But yeah, I obviously trust what Chase Young said. I did not watch every game he played this year. I did not watch every play. I just saw the highlights. I just saw the good things he did. I'm sure when the scouting reports come out, it'll be interesting to read them, what they are. Like everybody probably has a few weaknesses, whether how strong they are, how much they show in the NFL. They probably won't show up very often. But yes, Young feeling confident that he's the best player in the draft, and basically says he doesn't have anything left to prove. I mean, so the reason why he skipped the combine is he had nothing more to improve on. Right? He just said rely on the film, rely on the eye test, That is how you that's how people that's how he's telling people to identify his type of play and talent. So if he doesn't need the combine, that's great. I think at the very least, I think he's more than likely going to or not. So here, and this is a big deal, and this concerns the present team right now. So this was written by Ryan Walker from The Athletic. So Ron Rivera, I skimmed through his press conference and also of Kyle Smith as well. But Ron Rivera mentions that the team, the Redskins, are talking to Joe Burrow and Tua Tagovailoa. So you know what this means. What it means right off the bat. This team is not at all committed to Dwayne Haskins by any means whatsoever. Since the way Dwayne Haskins performed last year, I think he made baby steps along the way, got slightly better each week, and then had some good games. So it is clear that despite the terrible start he got off to, that he could be a quality NFL quarterback for sure. But then again, you are not committed to Dwayne Haskins. And right now, are Joe Burrow and Tua better than Dwayne Haskins right now? Probably. I think they probably are better than him. And what they all three have in common is they all were Heisman Trophy contenders. Dwayne Haskins, in his only year as a starter, put up huge numbers at Ohio State, basically video game type numbers. So did Tua, who almost won a Heisman. Might have been well on his way to winning one last year if he didn't get injured. And then Joe Burrow won the Heisman, put up ridiculous numbers. I think he threw for well over 5,000 yards, well over 50 touchdowns, and led LSU to the national championship game. That I'm interested. I think I want to pull it up right now. Stats from 2019. I'm interested to read them. Sorry for getting sidetracked. Okay, so in 15 games, Burrow 5,671 yards, 60 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. Huge upgrade from the year before where he played in 13 games, almost 3,000 yards, and then 16 interceptions. Like, you know what? It's Joe Brady, who is now in Carolina, and Matt Rule, he's his offensive coordinator. So again, in 15 games with Burrow playing, if he does that in a full NFL season, he breaks the single season passing yardage, and he also breaks the single season touchdown record. So that's 4 touchdowns a game, up from about a little bit over 1 in passing yards a game. Trying to do the math, that's close to 400 passing yards a game. So again, seeing that in Joe Burrow, the huge numbers he put up, being from Ohio, former Ohio State quarterback, that's where it seems like he's going to Cincinnati. And again, with the Skins talking to Joe Burrow, I think the only scenario would be if Tua went number 1 to Cincinnati, which would be I think would be a huge risk. I think Burrow is the safer pick. The question is, who was better, since going into the season between Tua and Joe Burrow is no contest. Since again, Burrow, I think, was known by SEC fans, and I think I heard the name before, but I didn't know how good he really was. I thought he was a decent SEC quarterback. I had no idea that he won the Heisman Trophy and break pretty much every record imaginable, to throw for 60 touchdowns and almost 6,000 yards, and have a magical run that he did, just dominant, leading LSU from, 9-3 every year, can't beat Alabama, always second to Alabama, to national champions, been beating Alabama. That was a magical run by LSU. They just caught fire in that just 1 year. So obviously, who is better? It is hard to say. Tua might be better from a pure talent standpoint. I don't know. I mean, maybe just took certain coaching to unlock Joe Burrow. I don't know. So again, a year ago, this time, or really 6 months ago, were people talking about Joe Burrow going 1-1? No, they were not. People said it would be Tua. And then it became Burrow, I think, really more and more once Tua got hurt. I think he got hurt after they lost LSU. I think it was just a couple weeks later. or maybe literally the next week when that happened. But again, if Tua goes to Cincinnati, I think that opens the door for Burrow to go to Washington. Since, again, there's a reason why they're not completely committed to Dwayne Haskins. Number one, Ron Rivera, this is his first draft. He's running everything. He is in charge of the free agency draft. I think Kyle Smith is number two. There is really no official general manager title here in DC. So again, not being committed to Dwayne Haskins, which makes complete sense, struggled out of the gate. And again, so you're interested. Since Joe Burrow probably won't even be available, I mean, are you going to go from 2-1 if you really want Burrow? Then fine. I don't think they would do that. In fact, it may be the opposite. They may trade down and really get a king's ransom type deal. Who knows? Kind of what they did when they went for RG3. So again, you're talking to Burrow, and I think they will do it. I think he's ultimately going to go to Cincinnati. That seems like a very popular pick right now. So the question is, if Tua is available, do you take him or Chase Young? Which, thinking about this, almost all the mocks say Chase Young. I mean, I've read a lot of mocks. It is basically saying Chase Young, but if it ends up being Tua, that could raise interesting questions. And yes, obviously, another report came from Michael Silver of NFL Network saying the odds will increase if Tua has a clean bill of health. And obviously, he's coming off that devastating hip injury. And I think he's doing better health-wise. The question is, how much does he play in 2020, if any? So again, if you draft him, and this could get very interesting here in a moment as I get to my next article and next take, coming up in just a minute. But again, if you're Washington and you draft Tua and he misses this year, what if Dwayne Haskins performs well? So again, this team is not completely committed to Dwayne Haskins. I think Ron Rivera's talked about that maybe he'll compete with Alex Smith if Alex Smith is somehow healthy, who hasn't played since 2018 with a terrible leg injury. So again, we don't know what's going on. It's an interesting debate. You know, this will be a great sports talk radio show in Washington, D.C., 106.7, 980 for the next 6 weeks to 2 months. It's going to be very well talked about. So, what would I do? In fact, I think I should put out a poll question. What could happen? So this is the Washington Post article written by Scott Allen. So this, Mel Kiper Jr., who's one of the leading draft experts for ESPN. So what he says is Mel Kiper's in favor of taking the Skins taking Tua at number 2. Right? That's what he is in favor of. So again, so basically, I think if Mel Kiper was running, say the team was running the Redskins, that would be the decision he would make. So again, what this means, and again I mentioned this earlier, they're not from how Mel Kiper feels, quarterback is their most important need right now. Since again, Tua is special, obviously, we know that. Talk to people in the SEC. He is very special. He is a special talent. But then again, is better than Dwayne Haskins is right now. And was a better prospect anyways. Was always a better prospect. I mean, there's a reason why he was starting pretty much by his sophomore year while Dwayne Haskins had the weight. And there's a reason why Dwayne Haskins was a 15th pick. And Tua, at the very least, is probably going to go 5. Maybe the Miami Dolphins or LA Chargers. That's the most common mocks I have seen. I think at the end of the day, he's going to go to Miami. But again, when you look at something like that, when you look at kind of the mocks, he will be available since Burrow is going to Cincinnati. So do you do that? Do you upgrade at quarterback right now? Since remember, you know what this is comparable to? Thinking about Josh Rosen in Arizona. Since again, it was supposed to be Steve Wilkes and Josh Rosen kind of the foundation of the team. Wilkes gets fired after a year. Rosen's pushed out. Wasn't given much of an opportunity. Went to Miami, kind of same thing. Has never really been in a good situation. Appears Rosen will be pushed out of Miami again, so he'll be looking for his third team in his third year. So again, just since you try to invest in a franchise quarterback doesn't mean they're going to stick, right? So with that in mind, if it turns out Tua is the quarterback, is Dwayne Haskins just immediately traded somewhere else? And since again, in comes Cliff Kingsbury, could have been a genius and try to work with Josh Rosen and try to figure out what he was, but instead moved on to Kyler Murray. And that appears to be working out. Kyler Murray's done far more in the NFL in 1 year than Josh Rosen did in 2 years, or maybe will ever accomplish. So there's that, and here's what Mel Kiper had to say in being in favor of Tua going to Washington. Quote, "The Redskins medical staff is going to be key to this, more so than the scouts and the evaluators." End quote, Kiper said Thursday of Tagovailoa, who was recovering from November hip surgery. Quote again, "They are the key if they sign off if you take Tua at 2. There's no doubt about that. You take Tua, you don't trade the pick, you don't take Chase Young, you take Tua. And if Haskins turns out to be better, then great. Then you can trade Tua," end quote. Okay, so here's what he's saying. Since there have been rumors of the Skins trading the pick away, whether that has been, who knows who they'll trade it to. I mean, there's been various teams around the league and mock trades or whatever. So if you somehow trade the pick, then what happens if you trade the pick? You could trade it anywhere. I mean, who wants Tua? Do the Dolphins want to be absolutely certain that they get Tua and not risk losing him, the player that they want? Do the LA Chargers trade for that second pick or whatever to make sure that they get Tua? I mean, I don't know. Maybe something like that does happen, or the Giants don't need him. Honestly, they have their guy in Daniel Jones. But somebody is going to make the trade who is picking at the top of the draft. And they are going to probably do whatever it takes. They're going to give up that high pick or whatever they have there. And then not only that, so again, here's kind of a list of the teams picking first. So Detroit's picking second. Could they do it if they're moving on from Matt Stafford? I'm starting to hear reports of that. So do they somehow go from 2 to 3 and really have to give up a lot? So you have that to keep in mind. What about the Dolphins? What about the Chargers? I think they're the most likely teams. The Panthers, it seems like they're sticking with Cam Newton. Probably not. Not the Cardinals. To the Jaguars? Probably not. The Browns, no. Jets, no. Raiders, okay. So I think the teams that would be most likely, if Matt Stafford moves on, I think would be the Lions, the Dolphins, and the Chargers. And those are the mocks who I've heard most likely of where Tua may end up. So again, Kiper talking about you don't trade the pick, right? And obviously there's the injury concern with that hip injury he got. So them, do not rush him back. If you're any team, whoever takes him, do not try to rush him back. Whether he comes back mid-season, whether he just sits out all that next year, give him plenty of time to learn. So while he's rehabbing the injury, he can learn the playbook, he can learn the system for a year. Don't try to bring him back coming off an injury, and then by 2021, he is all ready to go. That's the key. And again, Mel Kiper mentions you don't take Chase Young. So again, I think I've seen some people talk of Chase Young going to Detroit. And then again, here's why it could be risk. What if Dwayne Haskins performs great next year? You don't need to, or you trade him. For who knows, maybe you get more ransom in the draft. Maybe who knows how much you get. I mean, maybe you're a good team. Like, let's say this team goes 8-8 next year and they contend for that 7th playoff spot, which will likely be added this upcoming season. And then, maybe you just barely miss the playoffs. But somebody needs a quarterback. right? Hey, we'll trade you Tua for your first round pick, deal or no deal, right? So then what happens, right? So that's an interesting scenario. It could be just like this year, where they have opportunity to get so much from that pick, since obviously their direction is not quarterback. But this is an interesting debate whether they take Tua or not. And again, this is far from a finished product. It's just like Kyler Murray. Of course, was healthy and was drafted by an offensive genius in Kingsbury. Ron Rivera is more of a defensive genius and works more on the defensive side of the ball. So again, I don't think quarterback's his biggest concern. Maybe Ron Rivera. I mean, I'm completely speculating this, but maybe would obviously do better at coaching someone like Chase Young, and maybe leave Scott Turner or whatever to coaching Tua or whatever. So again, that's just something I think that might happen. And then here's another thing. Another quote he wanted to say. It's all about the quarterbacks, he said. That is Kiper. And then NFC East, particularly, think about Dak Prescott, Carson Wentz, Daniel Jones. If you have the fourth best quarterback in the division, you can forget about the playoffs or anything beyond that. It's all about the quarterback as of right now. So again, obviously, and this is not really opinion, I think this is almost a fact. You look at the quarterbacks. I think best quarterbacks. I think Wentz and Dak Prescott are definitely up for debate of who's better or not. Obviously, Wentz, well, not once the Eagles have been in the playoffs the last 3 years. The Cowboys have been just once in the last 3 years. But again, so Wentz and Prescott, you could make an argument, debate for 1 and 2. I think it's more Prescott. I think he's been more healthy considerable amount of time, so that's the factor right there. Daniel Jones did show some flashes, was benched briefly for Eli, but I think he's done better than Dwayne Haskins, for my mind. So again, Haskins is clearly the fourth best starting quarterback in this division right now. And don't get me wrong, Daniel Jones showed plenty of struggles as well. I mean, they went on a very long losing streak with Daniel Jones as the quarterback. So again, that is the factor to look at. And again, you talk about the playoffs. If Dwayne Haskins is not a productive quarterback, then I don't think they're going to make it to the playoffs. I think if they want to compete for the playoffs, I think even starting this year, potentially, with that added wild card, and certainly 2021, I think that will be the year they compete for the playoffs more than anything. Then is Dwayne Haskins ready to go? And if you get Tua, maybe, again, you go from the previous dilemma, maybe you have Dwayne Haskins this year, trying to figure out how good Haskins is. Since, again, I think most teams give quarterbacks usually about 2 years, I think. It's sort of like a coach. I think you usually give them a couple opportunities, maybe 2 or 3 years to really see if they can get it going. I mean, Ryan Tannehill got 7 years in Miami, right? Or whatever. Oh, pardon me, sorry about that. I caused the iPad to shake. So anyways, that is what we're talking about right now. But that could change. This could change. Maybe this is a division of quarterbacks. Maybe Haskins really elevates his game and becomes the best quarterback in this division. I mean, this is right? Maybe you have 4 good quarterbacks in this division, but that's the thing right now. Where are the Cowboys going? We don't know. We're just 8-8. Where are the Eagles going? How good are they really? I mean, we have struggled to see that same Eagles team. We were waiting for Carson Wentz to return to an MVP level. We're waiting for the Eagles to show once again that they can win multiple Super Bowls, but we have not seen that yet. We have yet to see the 13-3 Cowboys of 2016. We have yet to see the Cowboys maximize their talent in a full year and make a deep playoff run and go to the Super Bowl. So again, if those teams are kind of stuck in the middle, don't know what their identities are, this is an opportunity for somebody like Washington or the New York Giants to take a step forward and become that type of team. And is it getting to it? Like, is it that pick you have to make? It's like, I know it's a different sport, but is it like getting a Blake Griffin who gets hurt, or a Ben Simmons or a Joel Embiid who are hurt, but then when they come back and are ready to go, they're your most valuable player on playoff teams, and if you can figure out a few things, maybe even championship teams. You're taking a risk here. It is a risk. Chase Young is a safer pick. Tua is a risk for sure. We know that, but we know how great he can be. I mean, he was projected to be the number one pick for a long time, and still might potentially be. I think, in terms of odds, I think Joe Burrow. I think there's a 90% chance he goes to Cincinnati, whether Tua goes to Washington or not. So, let's say this happens right now. It's going to be interesting. I want to put out a poll on surveying again. The poll I do is only going to be reached by a few people, but it'll at least give me somewhat of an idea. I might get 50 people voting. So the question is, as this is for people, would you rather have Tua or Chase Young? So we don't know what they're going to do. I think this team, the Skins, have three choices. Number one, take Tua. Number two, take Chase Young. Number three, trade the pick. Those are their choices, and they could really benefit in the future and in the long haul, especially if the team that gets Chase Young struggles again next year. So we don't know. I think the likely scenarios are, number one, they take Young as it is. Number two, they trade the pick. Number three, they draft Tua. That is the order I think the scenarios will likely be. I don't know yet, and this will be a great mystery for the next 2 months, really until draft day, which is 54 days away. I am interested to see what happens. I'm excited for this draft this year to kind of see what happens, even though in this town, and as we wrap up, the Nationals opening day is 26 days away. The Nationals will be about a month into their quest of defending their World Series title. The Capitals, hopefully the Capitals will be beginning their second round playoff series, going for their second cup, will probably Washington, Pittsburgh, 4.0 or 5.0 in total, fourth matchup in the last 5 years. So again, this city, this town, you've had two champions. This is the excitement around the wall is about reaching an all-time low this year, especially in October and November, when this team was as bad as they've ever been, and the Nationals were world champions. I think the excitement for the football team, the Skins that is starting to come back. At least for now, I think there'll be excitement this year in April, and going into the season, you have Ron Rivera, so it's a completely new culture. So obviously this is exciting. And I'm very interested to see what happens. There's going to be a great debate again for the next 2 months. So I'm waiting. I'm interested to see what happens. This is all for this video. Up next, we will talk Tom Brady.